Indiana Jones. It's a podcast about Indiana Jones. Every movie, 1 minute at a time. Indiana Jones Minute.
Welcome back to the Indiana Jones Minute, the podcast where we get to the heart of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom 1 minute at a time. I'm Tom Taylor.
I'm Pete Mummert.
I'm Jerry Porter.
And I'm John Brueggen.
Welcome back, John.
Thank you.
We're so glad to have you back.
I'm very excited about this minute.
You are not going to believe what you're going to see in this minute. You're going to be so excited. We did this minute just for you. This is, of course, minute 103. And minute 103 begins with Shorty daring the bridge to break. And it ends with Indy starting across the bridge himself.
Would you guys describe this bridge as Mola Ramshackle? Hey,
I
listen.
see what you did.
You said manacles to kitticles. I can say Mola Ramshackle.
Fair enough.
Well, I got a question for you then, Jer. It's just for everybody, but it seems like a question that you might enjoy. Would you consider yourself suspension bridge jumpers or clingers?
Wow.
I am probably a clinger. I am Corporal Klinger. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question.
I put on a dress and I go across a bridge.
Yeah. I would definitely be a suspension bridge clinger. You mean like traversing the bridge?
Yeah.
What's going to be your signature move?
Yeah.
Mine's going to be clinging.
How about you, John?
Mine's, if those are the options, jumper. I like to make sure everybody behind me is uncomfortable.
Yeah. I'm with you. I, in spite of my mild anxiety disorder, I cannot get on a simple suspension bridge without jumping or swaying.
Yeah,
Really?
swaying,
Really?
absolutely.
Like, there's just something gleeful about it. There's just something so enjoyable about
I'm
it.
impressed.
And I liked it. Shorty, I mean, I've said again and again, I just love his enthusiasm for life. I love that even being chased by deadly killers, he takes time to stop and jump on the bridge.
Yeah.
Like, he's still going to take time to have fun.
It's the closest to a playground he's going to get to in a long, long time.
I was going to say, if we're talking about a bridge on a playground, then
Right.
I'll gleefully jump.
Yeah, I've done that.
Yeah, in this particular instance, especially with all the near death, escapes I've had that afternoon, I would just kind of play it more conservatively and cling.
Sure. Me too.
I have a question for John. Being a crocodile expert and looking at minute 103 when we see Shorty looking down and you can see the crocodiles, all the way down below, how far would you say that is down to the crocodiles? Like 500 feet, 1,000 feet? Like if you had to guesstimate looking at the size of the crocs.
Yeah, I'd say 250, 300 feet.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so like 200 or 300 feet.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. That's okay. All right.
At this point, it's hard to have anything to go on. But that
Yeah.
sounds
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
it
it
could
is.
be right.
I mean,
Yeah.
it looks, the way that's shot, it looks like it's 1,000 feet, but that's only because I guess I'm not on a suspension bridge and a crocodile expert.
Now, John is too big of a man to correct you on the air, but those are alligators, Jerry.
Well, no, I mean, Jerry's right. For the movie and the context, in India, there are 3 species of crocodilian that live in India, and none of them are alligators. There's a saltwater crocodile, which has a huge range because, just like its name, it can drink salt water and survive that, and so it can swim from one continent to another. It occurs it occurs all over the east and southern coast of India. but also throughout Southeast Asia and Australia, and it's a very huge range. So it wouldn't be inland in this river. And then there's a thing called an Indian gharial, which Jerry saw at my place. It's got a really long, skinny snout. It's kind of alien looking, even compared to all the other crocodilians. And it only eats fish. It has hundreds of teeth sticking out of its mouth, and it swims through a school of fish and just kind of gets them like chopsticks while they're in the water. And our zoo's actually the only place outside of India and Nepal to ever breed that species. So we have a little baby gharial that's on display. In fact, we just celebrated his birthday. He made the front page of the paper today with a little birthday hat on and everything. So
awesome! That's awesome.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that crocodile, and that thing was crazy looking. It looked like it lost a bet.
Yeah, they're weird.
It was smaller. Yeah, it was smaller, right? Its body was kind of smaller, and then it had a nose almost like a seahorse or something, like a long pointed snout.
Yeah, we'll put a picture on when this airs, but and then their eyes are weird. Their eyes they sit up kind of high. They almost look like they belong on a frog or something.
Oh, weird.
So those are the two species that would be potentially in India, but I think the species they're trying to replicate here is a freshwater riverine species called the mugger crocodile.
Oh, nice.
And I know Pete saw those even in Sri Lanka. They're very common in the freshwater waterways. Their scientific name is Crocodylus palustris. And if you break down the Greek from crocodylus, that's kroko, which means pebble, and dilus, which means worm. So they're calling them a pebble worm. And then palustris is a word that means marshy, so it lives in the swamp or the marsh instead of the saltwater.
Wow.
And its mugger name actually is a corruption of an old Hindu word that's called magar, and it means water monster. So it's pretty appropriate.
Can I just say, too, for the record, just to be clear, when I corrected Jer, I had no idea if those are crocodiles or alligators. So thank you.
So all of that is said to say this should be a mugger crocodile for the location and the type of the kind of snout that we're going to see. But in reality, they are all American alligators. And,
wow.
And that's because they picked up these shots in Florida. They actually came out to St. Augustine, and it says in Rinsler's book on it's page 175. He says that everything he does in this book is listing the shooting and the order and the location. He says this was a B group that went out to film, and the next day that they were at the alligator farm in St. Augustine, Florida, for more insert shots. And there's like still images there. There's probably 20 or more of all the different shots they got. We would hang food off a stick or something and get them to jump and move around and get a little action, and all of that's kind of showing in these slides in the book. It's really cool.
Did you know that until recently or something? When did you know that they had filmed there?
I had no idea. I've been working at this place for 15 years, and I was reading Rinsler's book, and I knew that they had gone to another facility in Orlando, and they brag about it there. They got a poster of Indiana Jones, and then I read this, and it's very specifically at the alligator farm in St. Augustine. I was like, why has no one told me this?
That's incredible.
That is incredible. It's amazing.
Are there any old timers around the alligator farm you've talked to who were there? Or
No, I've only got one guy that would have been there that long, and he I don't know if it was his weekend or what, but he doesn't have any recollection of it.
Well, it's probably a super low-key thing. It's not like Harrison Ford was hanging out on the side of the set or anything.
No, right, and
I'll wrestle an alligator.
we do, in a year we do dozens of film shots for different reasons. Some, like we talked about last minute, some of them were faking a wild shot, but some of them is we're doing the science and somebody wants to film it. So we did that bite force work, and we filmed a lot about that because, we got to capture an alligator. We put this thing in its mouth to irritate it and make it bite down, and it's got these transducers in it that register how hard the thing's biting. And so, we did all that research. We did it on every species that exists. We did it on alligators in the wild versus alligators in captivity to see if there was any difference. We went to Australia and made them bite the thing in the wild, in saltwater crocs and in freshwater crocs, in the wild and in captivity, so that, it was legitimate science when it was all said and done. And there were film crews doing that. In fact, I just last week got a call from a film crew that said, "You guys did that bite force work. Could we come get some of that on film?" So
cool.
Wow.
It's not uncommon for us to film a lot of things, and then, if it airs, we might not even hear about it if the film crew doesn't keep in contact with us, or, sometimes these film crews film things that never get to air.
Yeah.
Well, I've got another mugger crocodile question for you, John.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about mugger crocodiles a few months ago, and you told me something that I thought was incredible. And apparently you were involved in a study showing that mugger crocodiles actually use tools.
Yeah. My wife and I wrote a paper with a third gentleman, Vladimir Dinetz, and so we've seen it at the alligator farm. A few minutes ago we were talking about the birds that nest above the alligators, and so we see it in alligators at our place, and then there's a comparable zoo in India called the Madras Crocodile Bank, and they have thousands of these mugger crocodiles, and they've seen this where the birds nest above the crocodiles, and both species will swim up on a stick that's floating in the water and either push it with their nose or let it sit on their head and wait. And if they just hold still for long enough, everybody forgets they're there, and the bird is desperate for a new stick for its nest, and so as it's coming down to pick up the stick, they grab it and eat it. And so we define that as tool use in a reptile, which had never been published before.
That's incredible.
That's incredible.
What determines whether or not a crocodile can, I guess, process salt water versus fresh water? Like, what is it in their body that can filter that out, or,
Yeah, it's a special gland, and actually all crocodiles have a gland in their body that can filter salt water to a certain extent. That's one of the things that divides crocodiles from alligators. But there's two species that do it really well. So the saltwater crocodile in Southeast Asia is one of them, and the other one is the American croc, which we actually have down in South Florida and 17 countries south of us. And so it's on their tongue. They have like these little spots. If they're sitting with their mouth open, almost looks like their tongue is pitted, and those are salt glands. And when they sit with their mouth open, as the water evaporates off of their tongue, a little bit of salt builds up, which they can just rinse out.
Yeah, that is amazing, because
Nature's weird.
And alligators just don't have it. So alligators dehydrate if they spend a long time in the salt water. The news was calling last week, 2 weeks ago, I guess now, that because somebody had video of an alligator on the beach in the ocean, and they thought that was newsworthy. And I said, look, that happens all the time. We're just now in an age where people have a phone with them every second of every day.
Yeah.
And so they can swim through the salt, and they can swim in the surf, and they can eat there and so forth, but they just can't do it for a week at a time. They start dehydrating, and they got to go find fresh water somewhere.
Right. Well, that Mola Ramshackle Bridge must get a lot of traffic, because I'm thinking there, at the very least, it's a lot of people falling through, like Shorty here, because the crocodiles are waiting right under.
Yeah,
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like they got this huge gorge,
Yeah.
and as we know, and crocodiles are very smart. And so they're just going to wait where the food shows up.
Yeah,
So,
or like John mentioned last minute, I think. Like maybe there's a bunch of thuggy guards that were just washed out of the mine shaft and they're in the water now. So like, hey, it's one of those times when people just start showing up in the water.
but what's crazy about that is that's a different gorge.
Or
Is it?
Well, it's I think it's the same body of water.
About that. Is it the same body of water?
I think so. Yeah, I think
the one.
it is.
Yeah, this is the. Yeah, definitely.
Like if we go on the theory that that camera shot was taken from the bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think there's actually like a zoo down. I think there's like the Pancott crocodile farm down there. And everyone's like, 3:30, it's feeding time. And they wait for the guy to walk across the bridge, and everyone's watching the crocs down there waiting for feeding.
Yeah.
And there it is. Huh?
Kids love it.
Yeah, in the tight shots, you can see, the one little alligator. That's a cute alligator. He jumps up, but then they go a little bit wider shot to the whole group, and there's one alligator kind of porpoising over the rest. And if you look real carefully, he's got a mouthful of food. And so what happened is he just got fed. He snatched that piece of meat, and he's trying to get out of the group so nobody can take it away from him. So he's kind of leaping over one alligator, and he'll full steam ahead away from the group so he can choke that thing down.
That's funny. Let's watch that guy.
Yeah.
They're just like us. They get something and they just want it. Do you think Shorty, what's his name? Shorty, the kid, is his not very funny? Is that a callback to Very Funny when Willie gets knocked off her elephant and lands in the water?
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Because if it is, it's a little awkward.
Yeah.
But that's all I can think of.
But I think maybe he's making fun of himself there to kind of highlight the family feeling, because that's the first time she's been maternal this entire movie, and she like grabs him and hugs him really tightly, and
that's true.
And he's very kid-like. Like when she's pulling him up, he's still yelling help, even when he's at like he's safe. He's still yelling. But I like when he first falls through the bridge. He's got about 40 extra pounds, and I think that's pretty obviously Felix Stoa, his stunt double.
Yeah. Tub round.
I think it's one of those teaching moments where he realizes that, what's funny may be relative. And, when it happens to someone else, it's hysterical.
Yeah. Well, that's Mel Brooks's definition of comedy, right?
Yeah.
When it happens to me, it's tragedy. When it happens to you, it's comedy.
But we do have another Johnny Says What He Sees moment. Where Shorty says, "I'm falling down."
Yeah. Yeah.
I think he's just practicing his English at every moment.
Yeah.
This is a very controversial minute, actually. I don't know if controversial is the right word, but Indy is, I guess, on another part of this big rock and one end of the bridge. I don't know where he is, but he's on this thing, and he's faced with a couple of sword-wielding thuggy dudes, and of course he reaches for his gun like he's gonna, I'm gonna remember that thing that hasn't happened yet, and Raiders of the Lost Ark, but the audience knows it. But people get mad at the scene because it's a callback to something that hasn't happened yet. But I think this is kind of incredibly great because for us, the audience, it's a great callback. It's funny. It works. He's like, I'm going to do that thing. I don't have my gun. And so it works that way. And it's not like a weird paradox or anything. He would have gone and done that same thing. He would have tried to do that thing. It's not necessarily a joke to him. He's like, this is how I'm going to take care of the situation. I'm going to shoot these two guys. I don't have my gun. So it works either way. So I don't know why it makes people bent out of shape.
He's definitely not a guy with a mild anxiety disorder, though. Because there's no way if I'm in the Cairo marketplace, I'm reaching for the gun so casually again.
Right. Oh, yeah.
I'm going to be like, there's no way my gun's there.
Yeah, you just slap your hand there. Okay. All right. Now I'll make my move.
It is a nice callback, though, because they even have they play the Cairo marketplace mischief music.
Yeah.
Like it's
That's almost the only thing wrong with it, actually, in a way. Because, it's a little bit like, we got it. We know he's doing the thing like he did in Cairo. You don't have to play the music from Cairo. It's okay. But also, it's a little bit like, I wish I was watching Raiders right now. That'd be so awesome. Remember when we were watching Raiders? That was incredible. And he shot that guy and it came out of nowhere. That was so great.
I always feel like that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the problem with this movie.
I'm gonna play obviously devil's advocate here, but I think if you're sitting in the theater in 1984, and I mean VCRs still even aren't ubiquitous, and you haven't seen Raiders of the Lost Ark over and over and over again, and I think if you're watching this for the first time and you see that, I think that's a really fun callback.
Oh no, I agree. I agree.
And I think the music is a nice cue. Like I think I don't even know if you pick up on the music consciously the first couple times you hear it, but it's there, and
Right.
it all brings
Yeah.
you back to that moment.
I don't think I picked up on it until doing it for this.
I didn't, but I mean, what's interesting is, I mean, you could also just make the argument that after this scene in 1985, Indy just said to himself, no matter what, I'm never going to lose my gun again.
That's true.
Right.
Yeah,
You know?
that's true.
And so that's why, he's adhered to that.
That's why when he tells Marcus, what a careful guy I am, that means I always know where my gun is now.
Yeah.
I never hand it to Blonde.
Is that a nipple gong that plays after the Cairo Marketplace mischief music?
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. That's not a nipple gong.
Okay.
No.
That's it is a chime, as we talk about the bells in your life. That's definitely I have to listen to it again. It's a good call, Pete, though.
It's an areola gong.
It is. That's
And if your memory is faulty and you don't remember what we're talking about, this was the gong that plays in the Jaws cave earlier.
If your memory is faulty.
Thank you, Tom. I didn't know if anyone got that.
That's incredible. It almost sounds like a chord. Like there's two things
Yeah, it
struck
does
at
almost.
once. It
Yeah.
might be a vibraphone.
Weird.
It's you know what it is? It's a haprophone. or it might be like a mirthrophone. Because it plays that little it's kind of like a little chord that goes with Indy's smile, and it's like
Yeah.
mirth.
Well, you know what it sounds like? It sounds like, well, I guess this is apt. In the Tom and Jerry cartoons, like they would be running and they say they would stop all of a sudden, like maybe in the one where they're in the space satellite or something, and they'd run and they'd stop and you'd hear that gong, like it'd be that almost that exact same little chord sound.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and then we get a nice Star Wars callback here.
Oh well, we didn't even talk about the choreographed dual swordsman.
We should. That's where because that is pretty solid and good.
It's confusing as well.
Yeah, it's very confusing. I mean, first of all, I'll say it is an amazing old school swashbuckling vibe. It's like a fantastic scene that they pull off really well.
And some really solid whip work
Yeah.
from
it
Indiana
is.
Jones.
There's some continuity problems.
Yeah.
I think that's what you're getting at, Pete. What did you discover?
Well, I'm curious, and I think John might have seen the same thing because he was looking at this original draft of the script. Is in that Indy doesn't fight a guy with his own sword or with the other guy's arm and sword. Like he dispatches one guy with his whip, he whips him in his neck, and then he picks up his sword and fights the other guy. And if you look at, sometimes the guy has the sword and sometimes he doesn't. And in this one, he fights the guy with this. He whips the sword out of the one guy's hand and it goes flying off the mountainside. And then the other guy has a sword and then the other guy doesn't have a sword. And it's all very confusing.
There's suddenly a third guy on the ground. Is that what you're saying? Like he's fighting two guys. I just saw this.
I don't think it is a third guy. I think it's just a guy. The sword. It's a disappearing and reappearing sword. It's like a magic sword thing.
But the one guy runs off camera, and the other guy runs off camera the other way. Like he whips the sword out of the guy's arm, and that goes flying, and that guy runs away. And then the other guy comes back, stage left, and by then Indy has a sword. And where did it come from? Oh, there's a guy on the ground. He wasn't there before, so I think he took that guy's sword, but I don't know where that guy came from.
But see, I thought the guy on the ground was the guy he got with the first guy's sword.
Let's say it is, because now I'm confused.
I saw Indy pushes the guards away from him.
Yeah, and one guy goes flying, and that's the guy I think on the ground.
Yeah, and then but then he pushes them away from him, and then one of them is at his feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of the problem.
That guy goes down.
Yeah, he pushes him away, and then the one guy's at his feet. And then he has a machete, and that's what's confusing.
Yeah.
And so one of the machetes is flung away, and with the bullwhip, and that's it. He just has a machete in his hand.
Well, I think he totally got that machete from the guy who's on the ground at his feet, but I don't know how that guy got on the ground at his feet.
Well, yeah, he didn't, because Indy
Yeah.
pushed him away.
Yeah.
That's the continuity problem.
I've got two theories, though, that might
Okay.
solve the continuity problem. Well, the first thing, I was wondering if him whipping the sword out of the guy's hand is a callback to whipping the gun out of Barranca's hand and Raiders.
Oh.
This is
Or
kind of
the poker out of Toad's hand.
yeah. Kind of the same move.
Yeah.
But then if we're still in Fever Dream territory, maybe Han Solo did like the Force move and levitated the sword into his hand after it went off the cliff.
Could be. Stands to reason.
He's not the most force-sensitive guy.
That's true. Or regular sensitive for that.
Yeah. Although in his dreams, delusions of grandeur.
That's
I
true.
see.
I don't know, Pete. I just want to go into the bathtub and play. I mean,
him
that's
alone.
what that is. Yeah, he's using the Force to now bring the machete back to his hand. Han Solo?
Yeah, that was yeah. I'm trying.
But wait a second. Is this the first time Indy has a machete?
Yeah.
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 Okay, because
where
that's
he gets
huge.
the machete.
Yeah, that's where he gets the machete, which, by the way, he is outside of the Temple of Doom.
Yeah.
So all those posters showing him inside
Oh.
the Temple of Doom with the machete, he never has a machete inside the Temple of Doom.
You know what though? I don't think. Are you talking about the Chris Hopkins poster?
The Chris Hopkins poster.
Oh, and
also
there are
I think
others
there's
too, you're right.
Yeah,
You're
there's
right.
others. Like there's many
Yeah.
others where he has the machete. Like I even have
Yeah.
a T-shirt that says Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom, and it's him inside the red cave holding
Yeah.
a machete.
You're right. It's baloney.
And we don't. The machete just shows up here. Which, by
Yeah.
the way, we haven't really talked about. His signature tool and weapon is the bullwhip, and that's what we know from Raiders. But interestingly enough, in the Temple of Doom, if you're just looking at the poster, you're thinking like Indiana Jones has traded in his bullwhip for a machete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it might be see-through.
Yeah. Or crystal. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
poster on my wall, he has a whip and a machete, one in each hand.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And he's got that's going to be a continuity thing here, because he's got, if you watch after he dispatches these two guys, he's got the sword in his left hand and his whip in the right hand, and very shortly we'll see that they become reversed. And I'm curious if they actually flipped the film, because there are a couple of instances I was reading earlier on in the film where they actually just flipped the film around,
Oh, weird.
and I'm wondering if that happened in one of these
Huh.
shots.
Oh, somebody
Yeah.
posted something about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
When Shorty and Indy are giving each other their hats back,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah, and they-
embrace
yeah.
and everything. Like, why? I don't know. Why did they? Why was it? I don't know. Why?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay, that's all I needed to hear.
Wait, John, in your poster, how
Yeah.
prominently featured is the bullwhip?
It's as prominent as the sword, as the machete. They're both, his arms are straight down, and the machete is running along his right leg. It's actually touching the ground. Oh, no, it's not. It's close. There's a Gila monster light in the way. And then his left hand is the whip. There's like two coils hanging down. So, it's about equal.
And is the Gila monster indigenous to that cave?
Yeah, I think John drew this poster himself.
No, the only way my Gila monster fits in this Indiana Jones room is I put a lot of southwestern backdrops so he looks like he belongs near a Boy Scout
Oh,
troop
nice.
in Utah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
There you go, right.
But part of the reason this is my favorite minute is because there's not a clearer relationship between Han Solo and Indy if he's having this dream than this moment where
Yeah.
Yeah.
he's running down the hallway chasing stormtroopers and then has to turn tail and run the other way.
Right.
Right.
It's kind of perfect. Do you think was that in Spielberg and Lucas's mind? Was that, oh, here we're doing Star Wars, or was it just like, oh, here we're doing the thing where the hero is in over his head, and it's sort of a funny gag? Like, are they aware?
No.
Were they thinking of it as a Star Wars
That's
shout out?
Let's text him and ask him.
Yeah. Get Rinsler on the phone.
You know, it must be. It must be. I mean, you have Harrison Ford right there performing it.
Yeah.
I mean, he must have remembered, like, we did this once.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I'm getting something coming in here.
Oh, weird.
Yeah.
How could it be?
Yeah. This just in from Professor Christy Porter.
Oh, her.
Why are the assassins masked here? Is there a reason for anonymity?
Are they more masked than other thuggy guards we've seen?
Yeah.
These are more of the mimes, aren't they?
Yeah, I think it is more of the mimes.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Kind
but
of.
they don't really have, like, paint on them like the mimes do, right?
Well, you can't tell. They got masks on.
Yeah, when they first run up, they definitely have a big red dot, a huge red dot on their forehead,
Yeah.
just like Chatterlal. Yeah, when we
Yeah.
see him. But so I just kind of assumed there was a lot more paint under there again.
Yeah.
Maybe these are like the elite guards or something. I don't know.
They're really, really masked.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Like, super masked.
Are mimes allowed to show themselves in public?
Not outdoors.
Yeah, is it like you got to...
Daylight.
Yeah.
not on promontories.
You ever seen Sean German in the daylight?
No, I have not.
No, I have not.
That's our answer.
Give me something to think about.
Let's contemplate that for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. 5 minutes of mime. Yep. How do you think they decide if they get a scimitar or a machete? You think it's personal choice, or do you think they're assigned a weapon?
Yeah, see, the Star Wars figure fan in me is making me think that these are all like, there's specific kinds of thuggy, so you can get the different kinds of action figures and stuff. And the guys with the masks have one kind of sword, and the guys without the mask have another kind of sword, and it's a whole thing. So it's all very well plotted out.
Do they split the difference and pass out cutlasses?
Oh.
Oh yeah, those. Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, are those actually machetes? We're going to get letters from somebody saying like, guys,
Well,
the
wait a
machete looks like
second.
this.
Wait a second. I did look this up. And,
okay.
and yeah, like scimitars, of course, are sort of associated with the Middle East, and they have a curved blade. And a cutlass is the same. It also usually has a curved blade, but is frequently associated with pirates.
I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah, a cutlass. And by the way, when I was in the Caribbean, I was in Trinidad, and I was walking down the street, and there was a guy who did have, I mean, this just confuses everything and buries my entire theory, but there was a dude who was walking down the street, and he had a machete, and my friend who's Trinidadian said, "Oh, look, he's carrying a cutlass." And I was like, oh, my God, she just called it a cutlass. Like, that's a machete to me, but it was a cutlass to her, so.
Well, once again,
I
though,
don't know.
We were wondering about there were like those pirate skulls in the spike room. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
maybe there were, at some point, pirates from the Caribbean made it here to Pancot Palace on a raid.
Yeah.
And some of them ended up here, and that's where they got the voodoo, and that's where they got the cutlasses, and that's...
True.
It's all starting to come together.
Yeah.
Well, and also we talked about like how Mola Ram probably just does a lot of shopping at pawn shops from around the world. I mean, that's how they
Yeah.
came up with the shrunken head from, was it Ecuador? The shrunken head is from Ecuador, and yeah, it's just a real gumbo.
Yeah.
Maybe they got the
Deep dish
cutlasses from the
pizza.
Caribbean.
Yeah.
Yeah. They got alligators that they shouldn't be alligators.
John, thank you so much for joining us again. This has been awesome.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to come back and chew the fat with you guys.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime.
Yeah.
Yeah, we love having you.
All right, I'll be back tomorrow.
Oh, sorry. What? Who?
You said anytime, I'll be back tomorrow.
Oh, this has gotten awkward. So why don't you just tell everybody where they can find you, and then we'll go.
Yeah, I'm the director of a zoo called the St. Augustine Alligator Farm Zoological Park, and you can look it up at alligatorfarm.com.
Yeah, and Jared will tell you that it's awesome. I want to tell you that it's awesome. I assume it is, but I haven't been there yet. And Pete, where can people go to find out about us and follow our doings and things?
check out our website, IndianaJonesMinute.com. You can find out what we're up to. You can find more about Han Solo and is this part of his fever dream? We're going to say probably yes.
Yeah. Spoilers, yes.
Yes.
But everybody, please come back tomorrow for minute 104 of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom here on the Indiana Jones Minute.
You know what? Actually, I have in the bathtub for playtime, John. I have the Indian Garrow commemorative cup that I got celebrating the first, the 1 year anniversary of that rare croc.
That's awesome. You just need a couple fish in there and he'll be happy.
I'm going to leave that alone.